I was just trying to catch up with some voice notes. All right, so a poll this morning was, do you have confidence in the Minister of National Security? We had 23 people voting this morning, 21 saying no, 2 said yes. 21 said no, 2 said yes. So that's our poll this morning, and of course we would have done that poll for several other ministers of national security, none more so
done a new poll
than the 5 who went through the People's Partnership term of office. 5 ministers and about 4 junior ministers. So that's our poll, and it stays up until tomorrow. All right. So
it does indeed. All right. So make sure and check it out on our mobile app and on our website. Yeah, Miss Bonnie West.
Steve, did I tell you you would absolutely love Ghanaian food? It is spicy.
But it's seafood. I don't eat seafood.
No, it's not. It's not only the seafood. They have a lot of other food, but the meats are spicy. They do everything spicy.
Fantastic. Spicy is good.
You will like it. You will like it.
You know me, I'm a pepper mouth, so
yeah. You just have to be mindful of the spices they're using, which is why they told me always ask about the Maggi seasoning that it has dried shrimp in it. So just be mindful of that.
Yeah. Oh, I would taste that a mile away.
I smell it a mile away. Trust me.
Yeah. I just don't like seafood. I don't even like the smell of it. I don't know why, but I just don't.
Yeah. But they eat lots of seafood there too.
Not to say I haven't tried it, shrimp and salmon, but yeah. I'm not a meat mouth. The band meat, I really don't care. Won't bother me at all. Just do not ban doubles.
Well, they have a form of doubles there that I tried a morning. Why the name isn't coming to me? They say it's almost like doubles, but it tasted good.
You mean it doesn't have a doubles vendor in Ghana?
No, and let me tell you something. Doubles will make real money there. Doubles, corn soup, you see things like that? Because they have those ingredients, but they don't use them in the way that we use them. They do a lot of roast corn, endless vendors doing roast corn and selling it.
I love roast corn.
If they do corn soup, and they have yam.
Wendell, there you go.
Endless provision.
When you move to Ghana, you know what you're going to do?
Yeah, then I tell you, the business opportunities are endless in Ghana. They're endless. And with that population alone, you will be a millionaire overnight.
Let me book a flight to Ghana.
Overnight.
Let me book a flight to Ghana. Where's Paul?
Probably looking out at the monument. I was to ask him if the president's house or White House out there still bar around with that ugly wrought iron, ugly chicken wire fencing they had when I went when Trump was president. They had one ugly looking wire fence around the place where you can't get close enough to take pictures.
Oh, no.
I don't know if it's still there.
I don't know. Only Paul can tell us. Pablo? This must be his TT time.
Probably.
All right. Just remind you folks, that in the US daylight saving time starts on Sunday. So everything, if you're watching cable, it'll be an hour. It'll be an hour behind. So your show that starts at 8, like Neighborhood, which I love to watch, and Ghost. Oh, I love Ghost. Alaska Daily too is going on me. Will be an hour behind, so you're not going to hit record. I ain't staying up. I ain't staying up at all. All right. I deliberately did not get a guest this morning. I didn't know where you guys were, but we have a couple issues. Let's hear from you. Tell us why you voted no on our morning poll. All right. Tell us why. Because our poll was, do you have confidence in the Minister of National Security? Not if he can do the job or whatever. But do you have confidence that he can do the job? Yes or no? Tell us what you think and why. Well, most of you voted no. A couple of you all voted yes. So let's see why you said yes, and let's see why you said no.
Yeah, we could find out why. Because as I gave my proviso already on it. It's a tough job. It's a tough job regardless of who the person is in that office.
Yeah.
So, and it's not a job that you could. It's like the commissioner of police job. It's a job that you can't claim to be successful at. Because you're one of our callers said it. You're there to set policy. And it is for the people to implement the policies that you as the minister and as cabinet would have set, and sometimes that just does not happen. I always say, I remember the words of Martin Joseph when he went in there. After a while, he said, Wendell, I thought the problem was the police service. He said, but it's worse than that. He said the army, the Coast Guard, immigration, because everybody is equally bad. Well, not equally bad, but bad also. And so all of those arms, if all of those arms don't work together to fix the situation, because the drugs coming in one way, the drugs coming in through the complicity of the Coast Guard, it being transported sometimes through the complicity of the regiment. The police, we know of their issues on corruption and their protection of certain people and so on. So it's an overall thing that has to be fixed, but it can't be fixed unless people make a conscious effort that they're going to change. You understand? Or unless you find a way to weed out the corrupt elements and weed out the rogue people. And that is extremely hard to do. No minister can do that. The people, they have heads of department, they have chiefs in these different places, whether it's chief of police, chief of the army, chief of the Coast Guard, or whatever. They are the ones who are responsible for managing the personnel who come underneath them. So
while I agree with you that ministers are not responsible for being operational, and they're not. Ministers are to contribute to developing and passing cabinet-approved government policy on to the relevant agencies and providing resources, not so?
Yes.
When our political system, this present government and the UNC included, are on opposition benches, they do the very same thing and chastise ministers in their portfolios for non-performance in the relevant sectors. Not so?
Yes.
So when it comes wrong to their turn, don't say it's the minister policy, because they do the very same thing, and they are the ones who perpetuate this idea that the ministers are responsible when they're in opposition.
Yeah.
Because it's convenient and politically expedient at the time. So now that you are in the hot seat, the minister is responsible. Because when you're in opposition, that's what you do.
Yeah. No, and I'm saying, Paul, because you could look at the People's Partnership term in office as either making a real good attempt at fixing it or showing how badly they managed it. Because they changed 5 ministers of national security. The first one was John Sandy, a retired chief of defense.
I'm saying, yes, you're right. They were ineffective, but it is presently also ineffective.
No,
so whether it's 5 or 1, the end result is the same.
And I'm agreeing, but I was trying to show the People's Partnership in terms of maybe what they were doing was actually trying to fix it by changing ministers.
I am sure that this government is trying to fix it. No government is going to say they don't want to fix crime. How stupid is that? You understand?
Yeah. All right, we have a call.
Minister Hines doesn't want to fix crime, or the Prime Minister?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what the question is as whether or not their policies and strategies are being effective.
Are bearing fruit, yeah.
Yeah. Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
No,
you voted yes, not so?
Yes, I did.
All right.
I know your voice well, you know. I have to meet you one day. I have to tell you that. I would love to.
Sure will. No, the reason why I said yes is I think that most times the population don't understand the role of the Minister of National Security. And we try to cloud that responsibility in terms of fighting crime, right? In terms of the actual fighting of crime, rather than policies. It's about implementing policies and resources to the various arms of national security. And the question is if Mr. Fitzgerald Hines, as Minister of National Security, has been doing that. And to my knowledge, he has been, right? The problem is that at many times we ask that there's a separation of power, and we expect that when crime level go up or we see those gruesome levels of crime, we hold the Minister of National Security accountable because he's a politician. But yet the various arms, we don't hold them accountable with the exception of the Commissioner of Police, right? So I understand in the overall terms of managing those resources, it's a very tedious task. And so that's the reason why it is I voted yes, because I look at the policies that actually instituted under him, and I've seen some changes, and I don't just look at the level of detection based on what I read on the papers, but following up on the police social media app, where you see the regular faces of persons who are being apprehended and charged. Now, if it is that we are serious, rather than we playing politics, we need to understand that each one of us has a responsibility. One of the reasons why it is that certain parts in America are successful is because the population buys into it, and also with the CCTV cameras, etc. So I'm hoping with the policy that was instituted last night, or mentioned last night by the Prime Minister, in terms of the cameras and 2005 and additional 2005 coming in a few months, and also reduction in the cost of the duties from importation of these cameras because it's very expensive. Not a lot of homeowners will take advantage of it, and we will hopefully see some level of detection. And I make reference again to Mr. Aboud, who, with the DOMA, made mention that they had a problem in the early part of April this year, especially the Charlotte Street area in terms of crime, and where they work in collaboration with the Commissioner of Police and the police, and were able to successfully bring it down to a much reduced rate. So they must have cooperation, right? So that is my reason why I said yes to the
problem. No problem.
Thank you so much.
Find a way, Kolak, find a way to get your number to me now, please. I really would like to meet you one day.
And then while the ministers don't want to be blamed because their policy and resources, if there are successes, they jump on the TV and they claim victory.
Well, yes, and the caller alluded to it.
So you can't have it both ways.
The caller alluded to it when he said he's a politician, eh? Because
you can't have it both ways. You cannot have it both ways.
Any minister of national security who is thin-skinned and can't take criticism, then they're clearly in the wrong job. Because that is a job that will come with criticisms. Here, naturally. Especially with what is happening in the country.
And it is a job that involves public safety. And that's why it's called the criminal justice system. And the minister, really, his remit is so limited, not only in terms of policy and resources, because the criminal justice system involves police, defense force, Coast Guard, DPP's office,
immigration,
judiciary,
immigration,
customs, excise, judiciary, and the parliament.
Yeah.
So think about all those elements in the criminal justice system that have to be each working effectively and in a coordinated manner. That's why crime is such a and also I would prefer that one of the biggest elements in the criminal justice system is the education system.
Yes.
Because if you shut off the supply side by educating people with a particular mindset to criminality, you lessen the opportunity for criminals to proliferate.
Yes.
And that's why I've always spoken about education as the major tool in changing the criminality in the country. If you have 3,000 young people failing every year and falling through the system, you have a strong supply side to possible criminality.
Yeah.
So, but
I don't know what is the
I'll stop
percentage,
talking
but
about it just now.
I don't know what's the percentage, but let's go with 10%. Let's go with 10% of them going down that criminal road out of the
Well,
failure.
let's not go with anything we can't empirically identify.
No,
let's not just guess.
Paul, sometimes I think you don't listen to me, you know. I said I don't know what is the percentage, but let's assume it's 10%.
Why are we assuming it's 10%? Why not 50%?
Because
Why not 12%?
Because I could.
Why not apples? Why not oranges? Because you feel?
What's the point sometimes of this radio?
Because you vibe here, because you come in your head.
Opinion, man. What
I'm
is the point sometimes?
I ain't quarrel with nobody for the last 2 weeks.
Opinion, boy.
I quarrel with nobody for the last 2 weeks. No, I want to quarrel with you. Come on, we quarrel now.
No, I don't want to quarrel. I just come from the most peaceful place on earth, I think, that I've
experienced. You come back home and take
not Amsterdam, we talking Ghana.
Get you back to where you're supposed to be. Ride you up a little bit.
The most peaceful, happiest people on face of the planet Earth, despite all the problems. And guess what? 200 murders with 31 million people. They had to be doing something. They had and it probably has nothing to do with the education or whatever. It's just the way of life. They do not let other people bother them. When you on with the life, they literally vend on top one another with the same
that's
item.
Another misnomer.
Nobody quarrel.
It has nothing to do with education. Do you know that a large part of our education system is in our homes?
Of course. Yeah. Parents are teachers.
It has to do with their education because they're being socialized in a particular way.
Okay, well, all right. I will go along with that argument.
Mm-hmm. We always feel default by education is in school. You get education in your home, in your church, in your mosque, in your mandir, in your community, in your basketball court.
Yeah. Yes, that is true. And it's how we are socialized. You're right.
Exactly.
You're right. So that's why I was telling people earlier on, we have a lot to learn from some of these other nations, these other countries out there.
A conversation came about at breakfast yesterday. Mm-hmm. And it's something I agree with her. That we're talking about.
Was it a full table of people having breakfast or two?
Sorry?
Was not sorry. Sorry is in England. Was it a full table of people having breakfast or two?
It was 4 people having breakfast.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
And a conversation. Actually, it was, to be honest, it was with Ambassador Philip Spencer and one of his officials. Mm-hmm. And a conversation came up, and there was a perspective proffered, and I shall not say by whom, that we need to start holding parents responsible for the errant behavior of their minor children.
We need to do what, Paul?
That's not the first time a conversation.
It's not the first time we've spoken about this. But when children, 14 and 15 and 13, could disrupt transportation and schools and pounce on their colleagues in school and
go in malls and do the same thing.
You understand?
You know,
we have a call, gentlemen.
I saw a video of that fight in Trinity Mall. What? Where were the adults? Where was the security?
Yeah.
What? I was shocked. I said, no, that can't possibly be in Trinidad. For that length of time? No. That video shocked me,
Yeah. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning.
I have the greatest of respect for Fitzgerald Hines as an MP. I always like to listen to him in the Parliament talk. I always tell people that Fitzgerald Hines is one of my, favorite MPs. I like to listen to him speak in the Parliament. When he became Minister of National Security, I had a lot of hopes for him, I lost confidence in him, though, in February. And I can tell you why. This would have been when Fazir Mohammed asked him about whether or not who's responsible for, if it's his job to make people feel safe, right? And if you look at the interview, Fazir was trying to trap him and, get to the point where he basically said, no, that is not my responsibility. And then for Zero, if he said it was his responsibility for Zero, let's say, but people not feeling safe in the country, therefore you're a failure, right? So that was the setup. But at the same time, when you listen to the utterances of the government, over the course of their administration, this administration and the one before, this term in office and the one before, you do get the sense that they do not see themselves as being responsible for how people feel with respect to crime. And I think that is one of the greatest shortcomings of PNM, this PNM administration, and that they don't seem to connect with the population at that level, right? Mm-hmm. And to me, that is something that who is responsible for making people feel safe? Because it can't be the police, right? And lots of reasons why. And I think maybe that's why Gary Griffith was such a in the earlies for the administration, at least for this administration, for the previous administration, Gary Griffith was such a godsend because he took upon that mantle of responsibility through his Facebook, postings and his public utterances and so forth in making people feel safe. And if you listen to what people, at the time would have said, I mean, everything that Gary Griffith said that he was, talking to, and when he said he was speaking to the criminals in society and whatever, all of that was really directed towards, the population that were feeling unsafe, right?
Stick up in there. Because I want to read something for you, right? Someone just sent this message. I'm sure you and this person don't know one another and could not have come up with almost the same thing that you just said. This is the message I got from someone just now. And this is the only reason why I love Gigi. He owned his responsibility as the commissioner of police. Since Gigi left, the heat came back to the government. Isn't that what you just said?
That's exactly it. Now, yeah. The issue though, right? This is a bigger issue in my view, right? Because there's nothing in the police service, right? When you look at how you train police service, how you are trained in the police service when you start as a police constable, you work your way up, right? What is there in the experience that would prepare them to become someone that could speak to you understand, like that could challenge the government in the way that Gary Griffith did if you don't have 10-year service, if you're an acting commissioner of police, right, you're not going to see, there are things that you wouldn't see. Let's just put it like that, right? Mm-hmm. And there are avenues there are things that you wouldn't see. So I think, the way that the government handles this fear of crime, that is really a big issue. The Prime Minister, when they opened I think it's not Besson Street, when they opened the Duncan Street or one of those streets in Port of Spain has a police post. I want to believe it's Duncan Street. But anyway, when he opened the police post there, that was where, this Spanish guy from...
Yeah, I know. It's Duncan Street, you're right.
So Duncan Street, right. When he opened that, right, the Prime Minister said he described fear of crime as being like a football, like, they're moving the goalposts. Right, and I can understand that from his perspective. When you reduce crime or you do something to reduce the numbers, people say, well, yeah, that's true. But what about fear of crime? People are still afraid. And from his perspective, it was frustrating, right? And he said that there's no study that has ever been done, etc., that deals with this fear of crime. People just talking, making opinions, whatever it is. So there has been work that's been done through the University of West Indies, Professor Chedi, and the results are very eye-opening, I would say, in understanding how fear of crime perpetuates in this country and the way it structures itself. The other thing I would say quickly is that yesterday you were talking about whether or not we would have confidence, I think, with the meeting, that took place, right? This National Security Council meeting, and, are we confident that it's going to make a difference? I don't think it's going to make a difference. I don't feel that way because, right, to me, what is special about 500 versus 400 versus 300 versus 550? Right, as a limit, like what is there? It seems like there's a lot of focus now on 500. Okay, I know it makes for good. To me, it seems like optics because when the Prime Minister said back in June, July, when he came back from whatever overseas trip, and he said that it was a public health emergency, one would have thought that back then you could have predicted, right, that this was going to happen around this time here. We would have crossed 500. We would have, what would have happened in December and what would have happened at the end of the year. You could have predicted all of this, right? If it's public health, look at how we handle COVID. Weren't we looking at, the rate of increase, right? Wouldn't we looking forward and predicting and saying, okay, you know what, this is how fast this thing is doubling. Let's act now because of how fast it's moving, how fast the virus was progressing. Therefore, something should have happened back then. We should have seen some sort of that was the time to call your National Security Council meeting and have your conversation with the police. And then at this stage, we should be reviewing what was said back then, right?
Yes.
To see whether or not any sort of, to review the plans and to say, okay, who knows, maybe if an intervention was taken back then, we wouldn't be having a conversation at this point in time.
But Derek, let's take a pin. Is it a fair assumption? And I'm not being any apologist to the National Security Council. The National Security Council meets every month. So the only difference in this one is called an emergency meeting. To say that the National Security Council was not meeting or should have met back then is a misnomer. Whether or not what came out of it was effective is something else. But you can't say that they don't meet.
No, I'm not
or
saying
they don't meet with heads of security.
I'm not saying that it didn't meet, right? I'm saying how what is different this time is that they made a show of it, right? And the reason why they made a show of it, and I agree, you need to show that you're doing something, right? And the reason why they did that was to placate people's fears and to show that, okay, well, we're on top of the situation, because that is important. It's important to send a message to the population that, hey, you understand, we are on top of this, we are doing something about it. So I'm saying to you, that should have been done in at that point in time, right? Early in the year, because people was.
But Derek, I don't think you need to justify your comment, because here why you said it, and I agree with you. It was a numbers thing, which is why they made a show of the meeting. It was about the number 500, not so.
That to me is okay. So I'm not saying I try not to be cynical in these things, right? So it had to happen, right? Okay, so it happened, right? So I'm not saying how it should not have happened. I'm just saying I'm just saying that we could have looked at this. We should have looked at this based on the rate of increase, because that is going to predict what is going to happen in the future, right? And I think finally somebody had said you're talking about the Joint Select Committee and whether or not that is going to be that's a waste of time or not. I always listen to these things. I'd love to listen to the Joint Select Committees, because you get to interrogate what is happening. You get to ask questions. Well, questions are asked essentially. I think that's what we really need at this point. You want to know what's happening. What's the plan? What are the problems? Right? And people might say that, there's nothing good that comes out of it. And others might say that, there are meetings that would have been had and reports that weren't written up as yet, right? Couple of years ago, etc., they still doing report. But at the same time, having these things done in public and having the ability and having the opportunity as a member of the public just to sit down and to see where they're thinking, what are these people thinking, right? And where are they going? What are the problems they're having, right? I think that is wholesome. It is what we need, right? And the only problem I see is that this didn't happen early in the year when it was predicted.
Well, I agree, but then you're asking them to put on the so-called, in parentheses, pappy show earlier on, when it's just a pappy show. So we're talking about a pappy show in the context of it was more than likely just for appearances because of the benchmark of 500.
Yep.
The principle of the pappy show is the problem.
No, it seems that way, but the issue though, and I'll end on this, right? The issue is, For in this country, we use this concept of year to date, right? So our crime, we count year to date. So at the start of the year, you go down and right. That's how it is. There's some serious problems with that approach to counting crime, right? One of it is that it suggests that there's a seasonality to it, which there isn't. But the other thing is that when January comes around, right, the same rate of increase is there, but we just reset and then we start over. And that's one of the things I think that has been sort of stymieing our advancement on this issue, because you reach in January and it's like you're almost like, okay, well, you flip the clock again and we wouldn't have a problem until we reach another triple digit or something like that, when we should be continuing the conversation. Look at the rate of increase. That's what I'm saying. And if that is where it is presently, then we're always going to have next year you could be sure that we will be 500, 600, right? So that's what I think we should do.
All right.
So, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Got some calls coming through, short and sweet. Good morning.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning.
Good morning, Ellie. How are you?
Good morning, Wendell. My good friend. Welcome back home, Wendell.
Morning. Thank you, Ellie.
Steve, the overseas number not working, boy?
The 866?
Yeah, I call it. Just call feeling and busy too. Like it break down.
Really? Hold on. I'm going to check here myself.
Paul, you just give my partner Wendell a hard time, boy. Dr. Paul, sorry. Okay. It's all like you say. You want to bring him back from that piece.
It's quite a discussion. We do have to agree.
Yeah, but Ellie. Insofar as Paul is concerned, the only thing he can give hard is time. So that's all right.
like you would ever know.
Paul, Dr. Paul, you want to bring him back in the battle frame of mind, boy. You want to bring him back there. Hey, in terms of the thing in crime, boy, Wendell, like Paul, like I said, like the government is listening to this breakfast show, boy. Good, you guys with the cameras done a good job, man. And I hope they continue listening to this breakfast show. And
we've been talking about it at nauseam.
Yeah, you guys been talking about it for a long time. And like you say, the last caller, why had it take 500 murders? So, like, you know what I mean? But anyway, let's hope for the best. All we could do is hope for the best, because at the end of the day, I want the best of my country. Like I always say, I have family living back there. My sister, she's children. So I want the best for the country. At the end of the day, you know what I mean? I don't want to talk about politics and what is right for the country now. You know what I mean? I mean, the government doing good is good for everybody, and I support. But I think Wendell, in terms of the security, I think Fitzgerald Hines, I think, my opinion, I think Stuart Young was kind of like had a more better thing in the national. I don't know, that's my opinion. Stuart Young was doing better in the Prime Minister should put back Stuart Young in that portfolio. That is my opinion, guys. You guys
thanks, Ellie. All the best to you.
Yeah, thanks, Ellie. And I'm happy you said that, because I think a lot of times it has a lot to do with the personality also too in office, which is why Gary Griffith, to his credit, also was also a pretty even though it was short-lived as Minister of National Security under the People's Partnership, he also exuded a bit more confidence in that office, because it has to do with personality. You understand? Stuart Young, I agree, also had a different personality, and he was liked, you know. So it could have to do with personality too. That's my opinion.
All right. Good morning, caller.
Oh, hello. With respect to Fitzgerald Hines, I don't think he will be a good minister of anything, but I do think he can make a huge impact, because he is very popular in East Port of Spain, and he is also quite a lover of the English language. And there's obviously a literacy problem in East Port of Spain. You know, let's face facts.
So there's only a literacy problem in East Port of Spain, ma'am?
There's a literacy problem in a lot of places, but the impact that the literacy problem has in East Port of Spain is probably different from the impact it has in other places.
So how are you? I'm trying to get your analogy in terms of
grasp of the
English language and East Port of Spain.
Wendell, if you stop me halfway, how can I finish? If you listen, I'll get there. I can't get there in 2 minutes. Okay, ready?
Yes, you go right ahead.
So, right. So, being as popular as he is in East Port of Spain, I would really like to see him advocate for adult literacy centers, for after-school literacy courses for children, and for libraries in East Port of Spain, because people in East Port of Spain are at a disadvantage. Everybody speaks Trini language, but not everybody speaks the official language that allows you to extract information, right? Or to articulate your difficulty or your point of view at a particular forum. Information allows people to make better decisions for their personal life, for their professional life, for their futures. And that is a distinct disadvantage that exists in East Port of Spain. And given that Fitzgerald Hines, he speaks very good English. Maybe he's not always an effective communicator because he doesn't, modulate according to his audience, right? Or he's not always as brief and succinct as he could be. But he is the person who can make that impact that would allow people's lives to improve, because you don't have to go to school to learn anymore. There's a lot of baccalaureates and diplomas that people can do online. But if you have a difficulty managing standard English, which is not the language that we use on a day-to-day basis in Trinidad, that English is like a foreign language to a lot of people in Trinidad. So he could make that impact, and he could change people's lives in Port of Spain. And that's where I think he could do a lot of good, but not necessarily national security.
All right. Thank you so much. Across the pond in England, thank you. Good morning, caller. Good morning.
Hey, morning. Morning. Sorry what up. Or Wendell, sorry what up. I don't get something deep I listened to Mr. Paul Richard this morning make a statement. Right? And he's so right. Paul, you must read this book, boy. Education. Paul? You ever read a book? Education? Richard.
Mr. Patrick, make your contribution. Your contribution can't always be about asking us questions. Sometimes we just listen.
I was asking a question. I wonder if you read that book.
Well, his mic is silent.
Contribution. Right. The home is the first school. The home is the first school. The home is the first government where laws are being instituted in your home. A home without laws and organization, you're bringing out children to go into the wider community to create chaos and mayhem. And Linda was now making a statement. You see this thing called illiteracy, brother? Illiteracy has to do with education. Education has nothing to do with the school. Education is how you deal with people, anger management, how people culture the self and things. When you just say, when you was in Ghana, everybody's telling on top of one another, and nobody want to kill and mash up one another. Why? It's a culture. It's a training. You understand? Do we have that kind of culture in Trinidad? Do we have that kind of training in Trinidad? Trinidad is a place the minute you watch a man cook here, you want to shoot you. You want to shoot you, you want to kill you. You understand? So the police and Fitzgerald Hines and them alone can deal with crime. And we remember some years back, the Pandey show his hand up in the air and say, Lord help us all with this crime thing. And from that, I watching that up to this day, and the thing just gets worse because people think the police and Fitzgerald Hines, them could deal with crime. What they could do, they could put caution tape, they could put barrier, they could put stop sign, they could put everything, but man naturally lawless. Man lawless, so what to do when you commit crime, you have to kill all of them then. Because if they don't want to learn naturally, you have a strong deterrent, you have a strong medicine, and people ain't go like the medicine because lawyers like Ragoobarsingh and them go about people are legal right and the constitutional right. I go with that one because in the end of the day, crime comes from the heart of men and women. And they have to retrain them, they have to reculture them, they have to remove illiteracy from them. So when you have an argument, you ain't want to take a cutlass and a knife and shook up a man and stab up a man. Because for the weekend, for this weekend, the amount of people here get killed out gunner with knife and stabbing and chopping. You understand? So people have to deal with anger management and behavioral patterns and different things. I'll see you all later, right here.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Patrick. Good morning, caller.
Good day. Sorry to call him back again, but I had to. Right? Now, people tend to, based on the last comment of the caller, speaking about literacy and persons on the East, etc.
The lady before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just let you know, English language have rules, right? It doesn't mean that Trinidad and the way we speak in our dialect does not say that we are illiterate, right? Ours is a language also. And if you listen to linguistics and those, they explain that to you. So that's to debunk that misconception that the way that we speak is not a form of language. Because if you go into the history of English, it formed from the German language also. They could go the whole history of it. Right? So people need to get themselves appraised it. The next one deals with the fear of crime. And it's a topic that we don't dwell on much, right? And it's separate actually to the actual statistics itself. So what Gary Griffith was successful with is in terms of giving that optics, right? That's where he demonstrates that he's going hard on crime, and you all see him on the media, etc. So it creates that comfort to people, making it feel as if he's tackling the crime itself. But if you look at the actual statistics itself, it will speak a different story, because you're not actually dealing with the actual detection of crime. You're taking a hard, fast approach, but getting actually into the actual policing was something different, right? So we need to have that discussion, and not only looking at it and saying that, oh, because of Gary Griffith, he was successful. Because how do we gauge success? 300 murders? For the past 20 years, we have been hovering around that figure on average. So it means that you have 300, possibly out of the 300, you have repeated persons who are committing a crime. So it's only a matter of time before it escalates to a point to which it reaches now, right? So you really cannot count it to one Minister of National Security or one police commissioner. It's a continuation. And it's about looking at where we are now and how it is that we're going to bring this back into control, right?
Yeah.
So that's sort of put that in perspective.
All right. Thank you so much. Good morning, caller. Good morning.
Morning. How are we?
Not bad at all. How you doing?
Hi, good. Long time I hear lock on with your voice until come off the radio.
Well, I'm glad you could join us now.
I only now get my Bluetooth.
There you go.
What was the color before?
All and listen at the same time. That's the problem.
That's true. That's true. You have to use two devices. You're right.
I really want to fix crime in this country. All that stuff looking at the people that making crime worse now. What we need to do as a country is we need to fix our educational system and our health system. We have to teach empathy to these children in this world, boy, in this country. I mean, and if all they want money to do that, it's simple. Make all drugs legal. Make all drugs legal, because they're doing that. They're spending stuff in mud, making the drugs more expensive and increasing crime.
All right.
Look at Portugal. Look at Portugal module. It worked for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, strangely, I'm gonna.
right, thank you.
God willing, I'm gonna be able to give a report on Portugal, by the end of the year, and what I think about there. Once God spares my life.
Okay. If you say so, Wendell.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's get into our news brief. A very cold EV is in. And a news brief all powered by Champlain Auto Services.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley